For the first time in over 10 years, Xi Jinping is skipping a BRICS summit, which is set to take place in Brazil. And it is not due to illness or a tight schedule. It is a strategic decision. Since 2013, the Chinese president has not missed a single BRICS summit. So when Beijing unexpectedly announced that Premier Li Qiang would attend in his place, experts around the world took notice. This was clearly not a routine substitution, it was a signal. But what could have caused such a high-profile withdrawal? Why would the most influential figure in the alliance suddenly step away from the negotiations? As we will soon see, the answer lies in a subtle diplomatic rebuke and a growing rivalry that is increasingly pulling BRICS apart from within. Not long ago, India delivered a major blow to the BRICS agenda by refusing to support the de-dollarization plan. It announced that it would continue using the US dollar in international trade. This was a shock to both China and Russia, who have been pushing hard to reduce dependence on the dollar. From border clashes to stark differences in foreign policy, India and China are pulling BRICS in opposite directions. And now, with Xi Jinping stepping away from negotiations and Vladimir Putin also expected to skip the upcoming summit, the question arises, could this be the beginning of the end for BRICS? Yes, the alliance faces serious internal problems, but that does not mean the effort to challenge US dominance is over. China and other global South countries are already seeking new paths to counter American influence, without the limitations they now face inside BRICS. So let us examine what is really going on. Xi Jinping has attended every BRICS summit for over a decade. His sudden decision not to attend the July 6th to 7th summit in Brazil is a clear signal of mounting tensions within the bloc. Why does this matter so much? Because China is the backbone of BRICS. Among all member states, it has the largest economy by far. As of 2024, the combined GDP of BRICS nations makes up around 40% of the global economy. Nearly half of that comes from China alone. Its nominal GDP stands at 18.8 trillion US dollars, second only to the United States. For comparison, India is next in line, but its GDP is significantly smaller, only 3.9 trillion. And when measured by purchasing power parity, China's economy is estimated at $41 trillion, making it the largest in the world in terms of real output. This highlights how far ahead China has pulled, even compared to its closest partners in the alliance. That economic weight gives China immense influence within BRICS. So when Xi steps aside, it is not just symbolic, it strikes at the core of the group's cohesion. And the timing of this move is no accident. According to diplomats, the tipping point came when Brazilian President Lula extended a formal dinner invitation to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In international diplomacy, such a dinner is not just a social event. It is a gesture of recognition and political endorsement. For Xi Jinping, this was unacceptable. To understand why, we need to look at the bigger picture. India has recently come out against one of BRICS's key ideas, de-dollarization. It made clear that it would not abandon the US dollar in global settlements, a decision that came as an unpleasant surprise to China and Russia, who have long championed financial independence from the West. And when Lula publicly honored Modi in this way, it looked like an acknowledgement of India's rising influence. At the same time, it made China appear less dominant. For Xi, the prospect of playing second to Modi, especially at a summit in Brazil, was simply intolerable. Such diplomatic symbolism carries immense weight in Chinese politics. Beijing pays extremely close attention to such gestures. Xi clearly sees how India is strengthening its ties with Brazil and other countries in the global south. This shift in balance is deeply concerning for China, and it is worth noting that this is not the first time Xi has skipped a major summit where the spotlight was moving toward India. Last year, when India hosted the G20 summit, Xi also chose not to attend, sending Li Qiang in his place. At the time, this raised many questions. Now, it looks increasingly like part of a deliberate strategy. But it is important to emphasize, this is not the end of resistance to the United States. On the contrary, what we are witnessing may not be the collapse of the anti-Western alliance, but its reconfiguration. And what comes next could be even more effective. Still, BRICS without Putin at the table feels hollowed out. The alliance was built as a united front for the global south, but if its most influential members simply stop showing up, What will be left of it? And precisely because the relationship between China and Brazil is especially close, Xi's refusal to attend looks even more puzzling. All of this is happening against the backdrop of a deepening partnership between the two countries. Clearly, China is unhappy with how India is interfering with BRICS' core goals. Beijing is increasingly shifting focus to other international platforms where it holds more control, such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or the China CELAC Forum. These formats do not require constant friction with India. One of the main sources of tension between the two countries is their long-standing and painful border dispute. In 1962, India and China fought a war, and true peace has never returned to that region. In recent years, the situation has escalated to deadly clashes between soldiers in the Himalayas. At the last BRICS summit, Russian President Vladimir Putin tried to ease tensions between the two giants. For a moment, progress seemed possible, but fundamentally, nothing changed. The mistrust runs too deep. Moreover, China often blocks India's international ambitions. Delhi wants a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. Beijing strongly opposes this. India is also pushing for a more aggressive role in the global economy, while China tries to keep that in check. And then came what many saw as a betrayal: India's refusal to support BRICS' plan to move away from the US dollar. For years, bloc members have been developing a payment system in national currencies to reduce reliance on the dollar. China and Russia have been the driving forces behind this effort. For them, it is a way to avoid US pressure and the grip of Western sanctions. India suddenly backed away. Foreign Minister Subramanyam Jaishankar openly stated that India had never seriously supported the idea of a BRICS common currency or full de-dollarization. This came as a genuine shock to many members of the bloc. It became clear India is not ready to challenge the dollar-based system the way China and Russia are. For BRICS, this was a major blow. After all, one of its core goals was to build an alternative financial system independent of the West, and if India refuses to participate, that project is effectively doomed. China's shift away from relying on BRICS is becoming increasingly clear. Instead of depending on the bloc as a whole, Beijing is strengthening bilateral ties with individual members, especially Brazil. The most striking example is the close and productive personal relationship between Xi Jinping and President Lula. The two leaders have confirmed cooperation in energy, infrastructure, and agriculture. Yet none of these agreements required BRICS. When two leading members of the bloc can achieve this level of progress directly, a natural question arises: what is the bloc for? Over the past few years, the partnership between China and Brazil has grown so strong that it has, in many ways, outgrown the original goals of BRICS. Although the alliance was envisioned as a platform for uniting emerging economies, it is through direct cooperation that Beijing and Brasilia have achieved far more, especially in trade, finance, and local currency settlements. A key milestone came in March 2023, when the two countries stopped using the US dollar in bilateral trade, switching to transactions in yuan and reais. BRICS had long discussed de-dollarization, but this deal was the first real step. Major banks like ICBC and BOCOM BBM now handle operations in local currencies. Annual trade volume between the countries exceeds 150 billion US dollars, and all without BRICS involvement. Beyond traditional exports like soy and iron ore, Brazil sends beef, ethanol, and lithium to China, critical resources for China's energy and electric vehicle sectors. In return, Chinese corporations are investing heavily in Brazil's economy. Huawei is building 5G networks, and State Grid is laying down essential energy infrastructure. These are dynamic, flexible projects, not the slow-moving initiatives typical of BRICS. On the financial side, the partnership is equally strong. In 2024, Brazil's central bank added the yuan to its foreign currency reserves, a strong vote of confidence in China's currency. That same year, Brazil's development bank signed a $1.6 billion green energy deal with Chinese partners. Everything was done quickly, precisely, and efficiently, unlike most BRICS-led projects. Even in digital currency, China and Brazil are moving in sync. Brazil is preparing to join the mBridge project, a Chinese blockchain-based platform that enables central banks to exchange digital currencies directly. It is faster, cheaper, and bypasses the US dollar entirely. And once again, it operates outside of BRICS. All of these developments point to a central reality. China and Brazil have built a bilateral model that works better than the bloc that once brought them together. BRICS was the foundation, but real progress is now happening beyond it. And Brazil is not alone. China is building similar models across Latin America, Africa, and Asia. Direct, flexible agreements that deliver immediate results without waiting for consensus. This shift should alarm anyone who hoped that BRICS would become a unified counterweight to Western dominance. While the countries of the bloc have spent years debating de-dollarization, China is simply taking action. It has already secured oil deals with Saudi Arabia and Iran in yuan, is developing the M-Bridge platform with Thailand and the United Arab Emirates, and African countries are testing the digital yuan in their transactions. And once again, all of this bypasses BRICS. In practice, China's main tool for global influence is the Belt and Road Initiative. It is Beijing's most ambitious and expansive project. According to projections, more than $1.6 trillion will be invested in it by 2030. The money is being used for ports in Kenya, railways in Argentina, highways in Pakistan. In comparison, the BRICS New Development Bank has barely distributed $30 billion over 10 years, burdened by bureaucracy, disputes between countries, and weak results. And here arises the key question: is BRICS even necessary today, or has it simply become a symbolic facade on China's geopolitical chessboard? Do you think BRICS is on the verge of a reboot, or is it losing its meaning entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on new episodes. See you in the next video.